Hi, my name is Simone and I am 3D Supervisor at Mark Roberts Motion Control. In this Simul8 tutorial I will show you how to use the Path tool. The Path tool allows you to draw a trajectory of an object that has been animated, and that is going to be based on the playback range that you selected into the Maya viewport. In my case it's from 1200 to 1440, and I've selected this camera, which is animated, as you can see, from the keyframe showing on the timeline, and the red buttons, the red icons showing on the attributes in the channel box. So select the object and click on Path. A NURBS curve, that is the trajectory of the object, will appear. This is particularly useful to understand where the camera is going to go in the playback range that you selected, but also to understand how to better place your rig to then solve the camera movement. If in the scene there is more than one camera that you're supposed to solve and maybe deliver on set the same day, having the trajectory for each camera movement may be of help, because it's going to give you a better idea if you can solve all those camera movements from one single rail position. It's always useful to save time. One other thing that you can do is the curve that gets created is obviously called path curve, but maintains as a root the same name of the object that you're creating the curves on. This tool works on also on any object that has a keyframe animation on it. So if I was to create a locator and animate it, so key selected here, and then let's say I will animate that up here and then select it. So I've got animation, select it, and then create the path. The path tool works on normal objects as well, as long as it's got a transform node, which is how is it called in Maya, which has been keyframed. So because camera path is intimately related to rail positioning and rig positioning on set, I'm just going to quickly show how I would set up or position the rig on set related to this scene. One thing I'd like to say first, though, is that there is actually no solution, like mathematical solution, to where to put the rig in practice, because you might use the wrong rig. That's due to a multitude of factors. Maybe production doesn't have enough money to afford the right rig to do the job, or there is some props that are in the way, so you have to, maybe you're shooting on location, so the rig is it cannot go in what it will be the right position in terms of performances, but you have to put it somewhere else because that's the only place where you can put it. So this is more like an absolute kind of scenario. I need to say as well that for these project in particular, frame per second speeds weren't important, because we were shooting furniture, so there was no live action in frame. As you can see down here, the camera movements are thought to be run at 30 frames per second. The camera was running at 30 frames per second. However, the rig at the end was running only at 6, because we are trying to achieve quite a long distance. If you see that from the side, the camera is quite high, quite a long distance in only 8 seconds. 30 frames per second, 1200 to 1440, that's 240, 240 frames, that's 8 seconds. So I know already, without having to solve that, without using the limit checker from Simul8, that the camera movement is going to be too fast. These reach only the Titan or the Titan X can do. So I'm just going to import the Titan, which is the rig that we used on the day. I like to group things to keep things neat in my outliner. So Ctrl G, create new group, uppercase rigs underscore group, and these guys here are going to go into the camera group. Right, so let me select my rig and translate in Y 20 centimeters. I will then just move it around here and rotate 90. So the first thing I'm going to do is to see if I actually can reach that camera, the topmost one, the highest. Select the camera, select the rig mover node, constraint parent. So you will notice if you select the rig mover, you will notice that the master now is truck and the extent is staying at 0. So I know really that the maximum extent for this is 5.6 meters. It seems quite okay in terms of reach. I'm just gonna take this back so that the rig is falling on the rail. Let me double check if I have the right nodal offset. Nope. So I will select the rig mover shape, offset 90 degrees, and something around 17 centimeters back. We are using an array LF. So more or less that should be the nodal offset. Right, what I can gauge from here is that first thing first, I don't want to use the truck. It's going to be a very fast, at least I want to use the truck as less as possible, least possible, because it's going to be shaky. It's 6 meters length, 6 meters long arm with the truck, 80 seconds. There's no way it's going to come out smooth. Even if I can run it lower than 30 frames per second. So what I'm going to do is to put the master in extend and check that the range are more or less achievable. Well, really, in order to do that, I should actually check the limit checker, which at the moment is not on, so it's not screaming at me if any values gets trespassed. And let me see, so the extend maximum value is 5.65, it's 5.6 here, and then it goes to 6.3 there. So I would probably have, in that bit, I would probably have to use the extend in order to accommodate and have the extend less long. However, I'll probably get something like that, and I will need more rails, so I'll duplicate the rail in there and offset it 3 meters forward. And just to stay on the safe side, I don't need the buffers there, I just hide them. Get the rig again, the rail, duplicate it and offset the minus 3 meters. Duplicating the rail object, it's just for visual purpose. It doesn't actually help anything in the solver. The solver works anyway. What you want to set, if you want to have properly rail length set it up for the limit checking, is into the limit checker node, and that is into the track maximum value. So that would be track maximum value of 1.5 minus 1.5, so you want to update that. But that is out of these tutorial goals to teach you how to use the limit checker. This is just to show you how I would set up or actually lay down the track on set during the day or during the solving phase in order to get a decent solve out of it. And that is basically checking out the track paths, the camera paths, trying to find an axis of symmetry and having the rail running along it. I know that this is like half of circle, so this is probably the best way of using both rotate and track in order to achieve this camera movement, but also in order to achieve the vertical camera movements here. However, there is something that I've noticed, and that is that the camera, especially in this case, it's starting from minus 100, something like that, way over the minus 90. And what it happens is going through the minus 90 to get up. And that is the recipe for disaster called Gimbal Lock. So you got flip, pan there. A pan that is flipping through the animation. Not sure if you can see that. Maybe I'll just go through a perspective view. Show you. See? So that's bad. That means that I cannot solve the camera in this position unless I animate the angle in order to be always behind the camera. So something like that. So not behind the camera, but behind the tilt. So I've got the camera, the angle is more or less like this. But I would put the angle under a lot of stress, and I would probably see the rigging frame as well. So maybe I would start something from like something like that and then animate it. It just doesn't, it's probably gonna pass through the gimbal here. Maybe start the animation from there and then be a bit more low here to be over as long. But then panning right, because that's the point where the camera is panning right, you would put the pan under a lot of stress. So you got already angle and pan on an already quick movement. And it's fair enough, I mean, you don't have to run at 30 frames per second because, as we said, this is a shot for furniture. But still, a bad rig animation is a bad rig animation, no matter what speed you're running the rig. So what I would do, top view, angle the rig. Let's say, I don't need much, actually let's approach it with a more sophisticated technique. And let me put my angle back to 0. Actually, I just break animations. No, I want to break the animations and set it back to 0. And I'm going to create a locator where I think is the center of this circle that the paths are describing, which, lucky us, is exactly where the datum point is. So I just created it right in the center. I'm going to call this locator rig offset. Lock. And I'm just going to put it into the rigs group. And I'm going to parent the Titan to the locator. And then what I'm going to do, select the locator, rotate Y to 22.5, which is a quarter of 90 degrees. That should be enough. And basically what it allows me to do is to have the track in the same direction of a radius of the circle described by the path, which allows me to have the rig performance maximized in order to run more or less all of the moves. It's not be in a symmetrical position because we've got a lot of moves which are running through this bit. However, it's gonna be better than having to pass through a gimbal lock with the camera head, which in our case is an halt yet, which we've mounted on Titans. So yes, let's go to perspective view and check out if we can make more soft the pan passing through while the pan flipping, passing while the camera is passing through, the 90s in the tool, and I'll achieve this angling using the angle. Not even sure if angling is actually a verb. Changing the angle. Let's call it 30. Start in this position with the angle, having the camera going through the 90s, and then the pan rotation now is going to be more smooth. It's going to have actually time. It's going to basically, the pan is going to have time to adjust itself in order to accommodate the tilt. And then it's up to us if we want to leave the pan in that way, or maybe we want to animate the pan in order to, let's say, after the rotation is done and the camera has passed through the -90. So let's say from 12:16, we just introduce a keyframe there on the angle, and then when it hits the end of the vertical drop, before going to the left side, we can have the angle at 0 related to the ground. Let's call it 33, 35, 0. There you go, key selected. That will slightly help the lift as well with the acceleration, because you're actually straightening up the head. It means that you're counter moving the lift, because the camera is dropping, however you're straightening up the angle with the head, and the lift is going to have less load on it, less acceleration, and that's just going to be better for the lift as well. So possibly less wobbling, which is what you will have to fight against in a camera movement like this, and in projects like this where you're using Titans and massive movements in no time. That is all for this tutorial. If you've got any questions, suggestions, or comments, please write us to support@markroberts.com. Until the next time.